This joint assembly is convened pursuant to the provisions of JRS 13, which the clerk will now read.
JRS 13, joint resolution providing for the election of a Sergeant at Arms, an Adjutant and Inspector General, and 3 trustees of the University of Vermont and State Agricultural College. Whereas Vermont has been declared by the governor to be in a state of emergency as a result of a pandemic known as COVID-19, and whereas it is critical to take steps to control outbreaks of COVID-19 to minimize the risk to the public, maintain the health and safety of Vermonters, and limit the spread of infection in our community. And whereas technology exists that would enable the Joint Assembly to conduct a joint assembly during this time of a declared emergency in a manner consistent with public access to and transparency of its proceedings as demanded by the Vermont Constitution and consistent with and in compliance with statutory and legislative rule requirements regarding the election of a Sergeant at Arms, an Adjutant and Inspector General, and 3 trustees of the University of Vermont and State Agricultural College. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the 2 houses meet in joint assembly on Thursday, February 18, 2021 at 10:30 in the forenoon to vote on the election of a Sergeant at Arms, an Adjutant and Inspector General, and 3 trustees of the University of Vermont and State Agricultural College. And be it further resolved that the joint assembly shall be concurrently conducted electronically, at which members of the General Assembly may participate and debate from a remote location, that voting by ballot shall be conducted as practicable, consistent with Vermont's early or absentee voters statute at 17 VSA, section 2531 et sec. That after nomination and debates, if necessary, the joint assembly shall recess until Thursday, February 25, 2021 at 2 p.m. or as otherwise ordered by the joint assembly, so that ballots may be submitted and that upon reconvening, the results of the vote shall be announced or the joint assembly shall proceed until the above is completed.
Pursuant to our Constitution and statutes, we are assembled here today in joint assembly for the election of a Sergeant at Arms, an Adjutant and Inspector General, and 3 trustees for the University of Vermont. With respect to the election of all of these officers, if a contest exists, then the voting must be done by written ballot. This mandate is set forth in 2 VSA Section 12 and in Joint Rule 10A. The chair now calls to the attention of the Joint Assembly the text of Joint Rule 10, which applies to elections held by this assembly. Whenever a joint assembly is required to elect 1 or more persons to any office, the voting shall be by ballot, except if there is only 1 candidate for any office. And if there is no objection, the chair may put the question to the joint assembly for voice vote. If 2 or more offices are to be filled, each office will be voted upon and decided separately. If 2 or more vacancies for the same office are to be filled, nominations for all vacancies will be received before voting begins for the first vacancy. But each vacancy will be voted upon and decided separately. The joint assembly may limit the number and length of nominating and seconding speeches for each candidate. Election to any office is by a majority of the votes cast, exclusive of spoiled and blank ballots. After 2 votes have been taken for any vacancy without an election, all nominees except the 2 having the highest number of votes on the second ballot shall be withdrawn, and voting shall then continue until a candidate is elected. If no event shall the involuntary removal of nominees result in fewer than 2 nominees remaining in the contest. The person who first nominated a candidate may withdraw that candidate's name at any time. A withdrawal may be complete or may be limited to 1 or more vacancies. A candidate for any office having more than 1 vacancy who is defeated for the first vacancy shall automatically be a candidate for successive vacancies. unless the nomination is voluntarily withdrawn. For the purposes of this joint assembly, all nominations for these offices will be received by the chair prior to voting, presented in alphabetical order. And there will be only one nominating speech for not more than 3 minutes, and not more than two seconding speeches of not more than 1 minute each for each nominee. We have 3 sets of elections today. First, to elect a sergeant at arms. Second, to elect an adjutant and inspector general. Third, to elect 3 UVM trustees. For the elections that are not contested, the provisions of Joint Rule 10 will apply. This means that the elections may be by voice vote if there is no objection. For the election of the 3 UVM trustees, as there is a contest, the election shall be by ballot. Accordingly, we will now announce the tellers, and the chair now appoints the tellers as follows. Senator Ballant of Windham District as chief teller. Senator Perchlik of Washington District. Representative Kitzmiller, the member from Montpelier. Representative Donahue, the member from Northfield. We shall now proceed to the election of a sergeant at arms. Are there any nominations for the office of sergeant at arms? The chair now recognizes the senator from Caledonia District, Senator Benning.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in my chair to nominate Janet Miller to serve as our Sergeant at Arms. Janet was elected to the position in 2015 after working for Legislative Council since 1999. And during her time in office, Janet has worked to improve physical security, visitor management, emergency response, interagency communications, and Capitol Police training. She put into place the Vermont Alert System for emergency notification. She's taken steps to provide education to legislators, staff, and members of the public for emergency situations, and has implemented yearly fire drills and taken steps to improve security at the State House for special and large group events and committee hearings. Janet is a member and regional chair for the National Legislative Services and Security Association, which provides training and fellowship among sergeants at arms and Capitol Police across the country. She's a resident of Montpelier since 1989, formerly from Monongahela, Pennsylvania. She holds an associate degree from the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and her management career started in Montpelier, managing an inn and rental property. Madam President, I asked Janet to relay some personal information that we might not all be aware of. And she responded back that tourist season is one of her favorite times of being a sergeant at arms, talking to people and seeing where they come from and what a small world it actually is. She had the experience of a former legislative page from 1938 come to the building with his grandchildren. And he was taken up to the dome and given the opportunity to see where he had signed his name as a page back in 1938 and be able to show that to his grandkids. She enjoys researching her own genealogy and recently visited her ancestor's homestead, finding an historical marker of the lot given to him as a Revolutionary War soldier. She has 4 grandkids that keep her busy. She enjoys watercolors and has a grandson, still young enough, she reports, that he didn't object to her designing and painting his skateboard. I'll close, Madam President, with a personal observation. For those of you who are veteran legislators, you know that every Valentine's Day, we normally end up with a large chocolate heart in our mailboxes. There is absolutely no truth to the rumor that the Sergeant at Arms office now has 180 chocolate hearts stored in the back closet. I would like to encourage you all to vote for Janet Miller for the position of Sergeant at Arms. Thank you, Madam President.
Now the senator from Caledonia has moved that Janet Miller of Montpelier be elected Sergeant at Arms. Is there a second to the nomination? The chair now recognizes the member from Springfield, Representative Emmons.
I rise to second the nomination of Janet Miller for Sergeant at Arms. Janet is the one who welcomes folks to our State House. She is the face for the Vermont legislature. She has done her job over the past few years with grace and dignity, and she has always kept the needs of us as legislators in the General Assembly at the forefront, along with protecting our work. I welcome this opportunity to second the nomination for Janet Miller as our Sergeant at Arms.
The motion has been made and seconded that Janet Miller of Montpelier be elected Sergeant at Arms. Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, the chair declares that nominations are closed. We shall now proceed to vote by voice vote for this uncontested election. Unless there is an objection under Joint Rule 10A. Seeing no objection, are you ready for the question? And if so, I'll kindly ask you to unmute. Kindly ask that all members of this joint assembly unmute. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor of the election of Janet Miller as Sergeant at Arms, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you have elected Janet Miller of Montpelier, Sergeant at Arms, for a term of 2 years from and including the first day of March 2021, and until her successor is elected and has qualified. We shall now proceed to the election of an Adjutant and Inspector General. Pursuant to Title 20, Section 363, the General Assembly elects the Adjutant and Inspector General each biennium. Are there any nominations for the office of Adjutant and Inspector General? The chair recognizes the member from Dover, Representative Sibilia.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the Joint Assembly. Today, we have the unique and consequential duty to elect the leader of our Vermont National Guard. I am truly honored today to nominate Major General Greg Knight to serve as Adjutant and Inspector General. Decisions impacting the lives of our Guard members are made by our Governor and the President, but it is this body that has the responsibility to determine the quality of their leader. 2 years ago, this body elected Major General Knight from amongst a contested field of qualified candidates. The culture of the Guard was under intense scrutiny and morale was suffering. He promised transparency, accountability, and to lead alongside our Guard women and Guard men, challenging them and respecting them. He committed to leveling the playing field for all who serve and focusing on equal opportunities, regardless of gender or any other metric. He promised to focus on the sons and daughters of Vermont who willingly step forward and say, "Send me." Major General Knight has done what he told us he would do, making soldiers, airmen, and their families the center of gravity and providing candid, prompt, and professional information to key stakeholders at the state and national level. And he has invited the challenge of greater scrutiny. The Vermont National Guard is perhaps the most transparent and communicative it has ever been. In 2 years, Major General Knight has asked for and supported the creation of a Vermont National Guard Legislative Caucus, improved outreach to the governor, legislature, and our congressional delegation and our communities, and is consistently engaging with the media. He has instituted a campaign to recognize the good work of Vermont soldiers and airmen are doing. We are fortunate to have this quality of leadership for our Vermont Guard, and I ask for this body to join me in voting for the continued leadership of Major General Greg Knight as Adjutant and Inspector General.
Now the member from Dover has moved that Gregory C. Knight of Huntington be elected Adjutant and Inspector General. Is there a second to the nomination? The chair recognizes the member from Rutland City, Representative Fagan.
Thank you, Madam President. It is an honor to rise today to second the nomination of Major General Gregory Knight for the position of Adjutant General, Vermont. I have known Greg for at least 3 decades. I see in him a fair leader who demonstrates the military credo, mission first, soldiers always. Over the years, as he continued his service to our state and nation in positions of increasing responsibility, he continually demonstrated his commitment to soldiers always. He listens to the men and women of the Vermont National Guard's requests for training, for assignments, and he listens to their needs that would qualify them for deployments. Because he listens, their efforts do the talking. This is a practice he continues. Stated another way, Greg asks much of the Vermont National Guard, expects professional performance, and gives units the latitude to perform at nationally recognized levels, an example of which is the Vermont Army National Guard Cavalry Squadron becoming the first National Guard combat unit to be open to recruiting women. Please join me in voting for Major General Gregory Knight to remain Vermont's Adjutant General. Thank you, Madam President.
The chair additionally recognizes the senator from Addison District, Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam President. It is my pleasure to again second the nomination of Greg Knight for Adjutant General of the Vermont National Guard. For the past 2 years, I've been in regular communication with General Knight to ensure he is following through with his commitment to address gender inequality and sexual harassment and assault within the Guard. His work in this area has been collaborative and effective. General Knight has spearheaded community conversations, actively promoted women to leadership positions, strengthened accountability and investigatory protocols, and worked with partners to address barriers for women in the Guard. Examples of these efforts include requesting an outside National Guard Bureau assessment, working with legislators to create a provost marshal to respond to allegations of sexual assault, collaborating with Let's Grow Kids to address childcare challenges, and celebrating a number of Guard female firsts. There is more work to do, and General Knight is committed to doing it. I know we're all grateful to the work of the National Guard throughout the pandemic, from quickly building emergency medical units to distributing food to people in need, to providing technical support during a cyber attack, to staffing COVID clinics. The Guard has been a crucial component to Vermont's emergency response. On a personal note, I must add that Greg makes extremely good pickles and is generous in sharing them. I hope you'll join me in voting for General Greg Knight to remain Vermont's Adjutant General. Thank you, Madam President.
Now the motion has been made and seconded that Gregory C. Knight of Huntington be elected Adjutant and Inspector General. Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, the chair declares that nominations are closed. We shall now proceed to vote by voice vote for this uncontested election, unless there is an objection under Joint Rule 10A. Seeing no objection, are you ready for the question? I will again kindly ask members to please unmute. If so, all those in favor of the election of General Gregory C. Knight as Adjutant and Inspector General, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've elected Gregory C. Knight of Huntington as Adjutant and Inspector General for a term of 2 years from and including the first day of March 2021 and until a successor is elected and is qualified. We shall now proceed to the election of 3 trustees for the University of Vermont and State Agricultural College, each for a term of 6 years from and including the first day of March 2021. The chair reminds this joint assembly that nominations for the office of UVM trustee will be received in alphabetical order, with 1 nominating speech not more than 3 minutes and not more than 2 seconding speeches of not more than 1 minute for each nominee. For the election of UVM trustees, we'll be operating under the temporary rule set forth in JRS 14. The adoption of JRS 14 permits the Joint Assembly to elect the 3 trustees of the University of Vermont and State Agricultural College by a plurality vote. A plurality voting procedure simply means that the three candidates receiving the greater number of the total votes cast are elected. You will be instructed to vote for not more than 3 candidates at the same time and on the same ballot. We shall now proceed to the election to fill the 3 vacancies for trustees of the University of Vermont and State Agricultural College. Are there any nominations for these 3 vacancies? The chair recognizes the member from Burlington, Representative Odie.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the Joint Assembly. I nominate Stephanie Zach Jerome to the UVM Board of Trustees. You've received emails about Stephanie Zach Jerome's candidacy from her directly and from Representative Butch Shaw, Representative Sarita Austin, Representative Charlie Kimball, and Senator Cheryl Hooker. So you know that she graduated from UVM, that 3 generations of her family graduated from UVM, and that she's been involved helping UVM over many years, starting right after she graduated from UVM. You and I were reminded that she is a small business owner of visual learning systems, and she was a policy analyst for NASA and has a master's in public policy and administration. And what you might also know is what it's like to work with Representative Jerome. If you are on the House Commerce Committee, you know that she quickly rose to ranking member because she works hard, is thoughtful, is respectful of others, and is respected by others. And if you are any one of us who has received emails and calls from Vermonters needing our help with unemployment insurance and pandemic unemployment assistance claims, you know you can count on her to help Vermonters with issues arising from those claims. In fact, it was during late spring that I came to understand more about Stephanie Zach Jerome and what kind of person she is and what kind of representative she is. Stephanie spent hours and days alongside Representative Scott Beck, leading our legislative action team, a team that helped more than 2,000 Vermonters to take calls, to make calls, to answer emails, and to figure out what to do when we or our fellow Vermonters got stuck in the claims process. Always nimble and ready to adjust strategies, always returning emails promptly, always remaining calm, always caring about all involved. These are traits needed in a legislator. These are traits that will serve Stephanie Zach Jerome well should she have the chance to serve on the UVM Board of Trustees. She will listen to all, she will do the work. I am happy to nominate Stephanie Zach Jerome for the UVM Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Now, the member from Burlington has moved that Representative Stephanie Zach Jerome of Brandon be elected as trustee of the University of Vermont. Is there a second to the nomination? The chair recognizes the member from Winooski, Representative Colston.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to second the nomination of Representative Stephanie Zach Jerome. Representative Jerome's vision is for UVM to be an economic catalyst for all of Vermont, utilizing its research and development to enhance business, K-12 and higher education, agriculture, and a healthy environment. As a UVM board trustee, she will provide representation for Southwestern Vermont, gender equity, and experience in business and science education, policy, and a continued long-term affiliation with the university. Some examples are UVM class of '84 graduate, regional alumni board member in Washington, D.C. and Vermont, 3 generations of UVM graduates with 10 UVM degrees in her immediate family, UVM Medical Center's Cancer Advisory Board member. Representative Jerome's public policy experience is as follows: Master's in Public Policy and Administration, UMass Amherst, Presidential Management Fellow, ranking member of our Commerce and Economic Development Committee, policy analyst for the Office of Space Science at NASA, and business acumen as a co-owner of Visual Learning Systems. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The chair kindly asks that members who are not speaking do mute themselves. The chair further recognizes the member from Dover, Representative Sibilia.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the Joint Assembly. I am pleased to rise to second the nomination of Representative Stephanie Jerome to the UVM Board of Trustees. I too had the honor of seeing Stephanie's calm leadership up close this past year. Last March, the state of emergency caused a massive shutdown in employment. Thousands of Vermonters lost their income through no fault of their own. and the Department of Labor was unprepared for the massive number of unemployment insurance claims. Vermont's House leadership developed a way for legislators to step in and assist Vermont Department of Labor and our constituents. This was a bipartisan effort led by Representative Jerome. Working with a group of 23 legislators and 14 state employees to solve the unemployment insurance issues for nearly 2,300 Vermonters. For nearly 6 weeks, Stephanie worked nonstop contacting constituents, working with legislators and the Department of Labor and administrative officials to get the unemployment insurance payments processed. With Representative Stephanie Jerome's key leadership, we were able to get 2,300 Vermonters their unemployment benefits. I deeply appreciated her flexibility, leadership, and commitment to our state and our people during that effort. And I believe she will be a tremendous asset to UVM. I ask you to join me in casting one of your votes for Representative Stephanie Jerome.
The motion has been made and seconded that Representative Stephanie Zach Jerome of Brandon be elected as a trustee of the University of Vermont. Are there any other nominations? The chair now recognizes the member from Heinsberg, Representative Lippert.
Madam President, I am delighted to nominate Representative Lucy Rogers for a position on the UVM Board of Trustees. Lucy is a person of unique talents, broad intelligence, and a deep commitment to the state of Vermont, where she was born and raised. Lucy graduated from the University of Vermont, Phi Beta Kappa, in 2018, with a major in biology and with minors in both math and Chinese. Lucy is committed to the vitality of rural Vermont, where she grew up in a town of 700, milked her own cow, and built her own house. And yes, along the way, she mastered the Chinese language and helped found a new and innovative college in Sitka, Alaska. Lucy is committed to the role that public universities like UVM play in today's world, and her recent firsthand view of the many different sides of the university will be a tremendous asset as UVM works through the process of modernizing its educational systems. Particularly relevant to the work of the UVM board is Lucy's involvement in founding a new college in Alaska, which uses creative ways to keep tuition affordable and places a high value on partnerships with the surrounding communities. Lucy's role in the founding effort was to research the successes and pitfalls of other colleges and universities that opened during the last century. She has examined each component of these institutes of higher learning in order to understand their strengths and weaknesses, gaining a skill set that will be invaluable on the UVM board. I got to know Lucy as her committee chair on House Healthcare last biennium, as well as while working together with Coach Christie to set this Social Equity Caucus, to get the Social Equity Caucus off to a solid start. As a new legislator, Lucy entered our committee having already done extensive research on Vermont's healthcare system in order to hit the ground running. With her commitment to sustaining the vitality of Vermont's rural communities, Lucy led our committee's successful establishment of the Rural Health Task Force, whose important work continues to produce results today. I am certain Lucy will bring the same energy and abilities to the UVM board, as Lucy enjoys diving into the complexity of any given problem. She will give her all to the UVM board. I serve as a member of the Vermont State Colleges System Board of Trustees, and I had many conversations with Lucy after the proposed college campus closures last spring. Lucy showed a strong understanding of the entire higher education landscape in Vermont, as well as the impact that Northern Vermont University has on her region. Her role as a recent UVM graduate from a community strongly connected to the state colleges system positions her to take a holistic approach to the future of higher education in Vermont. Lucy will bring a unique and important voice to the UVM board and will undertake the hard work of serving as a trustee with dedication and a willingness to consider new ideas. I urge you to join me in casting one of your votes for Representative Lucy Rogers. Thank you.
Now, the member from Heinsberg has moved that Representative Lucy Rogers of Waterville be elected as a trustee of the University of Vermont. Is there a second to the nomination? The chair recognizes the member from Chittenden, Representative Harrison.
Thank you, Madam President. It gives me great pleasure second the nomination for Lucy Rogers for UVM trustee. I first met Lucy when she was a representative-elect at a UVM legislative forum. I have gotten to know her better through the Rural Economic Development Working Group, where she has proven to be an integral part of the team, always listening and offering constructive suggestions. There is no doubt her heart and soul is in Vermont, especially UVM. How many of us can say they left Harvard to attend the Green and Gold? While I was leaning towards supporting her candidacy, a handwritten postcard in the mail as a follow-up to her phone call sealed the deal. It was creative and an example of the effort she will put into the position. Higher education is at a crossroads today. Fresh and imaginative thinking, along with the extra effort, is what we need now more than ever. Please join me in supporting Lucy Rogers. Thank you.
The chair further recognizes the senator from Windham District, Senator White.
Thank you, Madam President. Once upon a time when we were actually in the State House, meeting, talking, and spending time together, I was completely blown away by a then new representative, Lucy Rogers, especially by the intelligence, thoughtfulness, and energy that she brought to her new role. Speaking as a former trustee, those are exactly the qualities needed in a trustee at the board of UVM. Lucy's love of Vermont, UVM, and Vermonters makes her the perfect public trustee as she balances all of these interests on the board. My own love of UVM and knowledge of the role of a trustee gives me full confidence that Lucy will make a great public trustee. I encourage you also to support her with your vote. Thank you.
The motion has been made and seconded that Representative Lucy Rogers of Waterville be elected as a trustee of the University of Vermont. Are there any other nominations? The chair recognizes the member from Shelburne, Representative Brumstead.
Thank you, Madam President and members of this joint session. I am pleased to rise this morning to nominate Representative Tristan Tolino for a second term to the University of Vermont Board of Trustees. Higher education is at a crossroads in this country. UVM and the Vermont State College system are also challenged as never before. Demographics have put the UVM College of Arts and Sciences in peril, and current decision-making is critical for the future of the state's land-grant university. Because so much is at stake, Tristan's experience matters. And there are many other reasons I want to offer for why I support Representative Tolino's continued service to the University of Vermont Board of Trustees. Representative Tolino is experienced in business, academia, and management. As the director of Marlborough College's graduate school, he worked with students to plan their transitions when the college was closing and knows firsthand how it feels to lose an academic program and a college. He is also a proud parent of a current UVM student. Representative Tolino has a unique perspective as someone who worked for 25 years as a chef, has been an MBA professor, has taught workforce training culinary classes, and has served on the Vermont Workforce Development Board, which helps him to be unusually well-suited to both support and advocate for students staying in Vermont to attend college, and most importantly, for the hands-on learning of trades and alternatives to higher education. During his 6 years on the UVM board, Representative Tolino has worked to bring forward the viewpoint of legislative representatives to the board, which provides balance to the views of the non-legislative trustees. He is an excellent communicator. He was named to the search committee for a new president in 2018, which resulted in the successful recruitment of the current president, Suresh Garamella. Even though he helped select the president, Representative Tolino is not afraid to be a strong voice with constructive feedback. In his current job, he works with leaders and understands how to support their strategic thinking and their leadership development. This business work guides teams, and organizations in transitioning to shared leadership and sharing power, which shows how committed he is to making sure that all voices are heard and everyone's contribution is valued. This work is recognized among his colleagues on the board, bringing value to the work they do. The board has been impressed with his work, and that gives me great confidence. The fact that he represents Brattleboro is also significant for a whole state approach to the University of Vermont board. On a personal level, Representative Tolino has been an invaluable resource for me as a legislator, and I know many others, when he encourages thoughtful, informed deliberation of issues and consideration of varied points of view on topics. I can always count on him to be honest, even when it's tough, with his advice, and always helpful in how I can do better as in my role as a legislator, encouraging me to be my best self and always recommending articles and books that help me see all sides of the many issues we grapple with here in this virtual building. I struggled a bit my first year with being misunderstood and labeled, and Representative Tolino's encouragement and advice to not take myself quite so serious, I might not be here today. I know that he provides the same sort of encouraging advice and counsel to other legislators, and most importantly, when participating as a member of the UVM board. Representative Tolino is committed in his service to Vermont and speaking truth to power, and to protecting UVM as an economic, cultural beacon for our state. I sincerely believe that Representative Tolino's background, his 6 years of experience and relationship development on the UVM board, his integrity and commitment to the state make his reappointment a wise and timely move. I hope you will join me in voting for Representative Tristan Tolino for the UVM Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Now, the member from Shelburne has moved that Representative Tristan Tolino of Brattleboro be elected as trustee of the University of Vermont. Is there a second to the nomination? The chair recognizes the member from Woodstock, Representative Kimball.
Madam President, I am honored to second the nomination of Tristan Tolino for trustee of the University of Vermont and State Agricultural College. Tristan Tolino, chef, entrepreneur, academic, philosopher, parent, strategic thinker. Tristan Tolino is a systems thinker. He thrives on the interconnections of people and organizations. He believes the success of an enterprise depends on whether or not its design and execution is true to its foundation, its mission. Tristan has a tremendous capacity of thought, being able to hold many complex ideas at the same time. When considering a question, you can see Tristan's mind working, and his response is a carefully considered, well-informed, structured response. He rarely says something he doesn't fully intend to. The university will benefit and has benefited from Tristan's knowledge, commitment, and Southern perspective. He lives south of Route 9 in Brattleboro. Please join me in voting for Tristan Tolino as trustee for the University of Vermont and State Agricultural College.
The motion has been made and seconded that Representative Tristan Tolino of Brattleboro be elected as a trustee of the University of Vermont. Are there any other nominations? The chair recognizes the member from Montpelier, Representative Hooper.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the Joint Assembly, I nominate Catherine Kitty Toll of Danville for trustee of the University of Vermont. You have received letters from many touting the talents, skills, and attributes of the former member from Danville. I agree with all of them. She is smart, hardworking, dedicated, full of integrity. I know this because we entered the body together and I watched her work from afar and then close up. We served together for 6 years on appropriations and for the past 4 years, sat together on the floor. The deep knowledge of finance and budgeting, the work ethic, the commitment to listening to and exploring ideas we have heard described in letters of support leave no doubt that Kitty will make an outstanding trustee. I want to tell you a little bit about the person, Kitty, and why that will make her a great trustee.
In our years together, we talked a lot about our work as legislators. We talked about the values of the state and what we could do on appropriations to serve the state. Through these talks, I came to know the deep love Kitty Toll has for Vermont, its people, and her commitment to education. She is passionate about the value of learning and its ability to lift up the individual. She came to embrace this professionally and in a very personal way. As a young woman, she was a school teacher, and the lessons learned in that role informed her life and her work in our body. They will inform her work as a trustee. To this day, she mentors kids, bringing them into her life and home to ensure they succeed, finding them support in school, someone to be in their life, attending to their security. You have heard how she worked to support higher education in the legislature. I can attest to that. She recognizes the power of higher education as an economic development tool, as a way to keep Vermonters here in good jobs, and as a way to attract others to our state. In her years on appropriations, she looked for ways to better serve students, to advance workforce training, and support all corners of the state with strategic, thoughtful investments in education. This is Kitty Toll. She brings her heart and her brain to her work. She is all in every day and in every way. I think we are so fortunate that she is willing to continue serving this state, and I ask you to vote for her as trustee of the University of Vermont. Thank you.
The member from Montpelier has moved that Catherine Kitty Toll of Danville be elected as a trustee of the University of Vermont. Is there a second to the nomination? The chair recognizes the member from St. Johnsbury, Representative Beck.
Thank you, Madam President and members of this joint session. I second the member from Montpelier's motion to place former Representative Kitty Toll's name into consideration to be a trustee of the University of Vermont. United States colleges and universities were under enormous financial pressure before the current pandemic. Some predict that half will close their doors within the decade. Vermont has already seen a number of institutions close. Kitty Toll's experience and expertise in budgeting will greatly benefit UVM as they restructure and strive to offer increasing educational quality and value to their student body and serve as an economic engine for Vermont. UVM is a land-grant university with an agricultural college with a commitment to furthering agriculture and its role in the Vermont landscape and economy. Kitty understands agriculture. She grew up on a family farm, which still operates today, and started her legislative career on the Agricultural Committee. Kitty is a great listener. She's a tireless worker, kind, empathetic, and has a natural way of communicating in a friendly but firm manner. But most of all, Kitty is positive about youth. She believes that if they are nurtured, have the required resources, and are encouraged to be their best, that they will. I strongly encourage you to cast one of your 3 votes for UVM trustee for Kitty Toll. Thank you.
The motion has been made and seconded that Catherine Kitty Toll of Danville be elected as treasurer of the University of Vermont. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, accordingly, we have 4 names placed in nomination and on the ballot for the office of trustee of the University of Vermont and State Agricultural College as follows. Representative Stephanie Zach Jerome of Brandon, Representative Lucy Rogers of Waterville, Representative Tristan Tolino of Brattleboro, and Catherine Kitty Toll of Danville. Is there any debate with respect to these nominees? Seeing none, we shall proceed to the instructions around voting. First, I want to remind you of the rules that govern us. Pursuant to JRS 13, the vote on the election of the 3 trustees for the University of Vermont shall be conducted as practicable, consistent with Vermont's early or absentee voters statute. In conformance with this requirement, ballots and related documents were sent to you last Friday. prior to this joint assembly. In the envelope you received, you should have 3 ballots. A certification envelope, 3 ballots. A certification envelope. An addressed postage prepaid return envelope, and an instruction sheet. At this point, because of the earlier elections, the only ballot you need to return is the one for UVM trustees. As explained on the instruction sheet, you are to do as follows. First, vote your ballot. Second, place your voted ballot inside the certification envelope. Third, print your name in the space provided on the front certification envelope and sign the certification on the certification envelope. Seal the certification envelope with your voted ballot inside. Put the certification envelope inside the prepaid, pre-addressed mailing envelope and mail back the envelope. Return your ballot by mail or in person, so it is received by noon, February 21st, 2021. We recognize again that ballots went out on Friday and Monday was a mail holiday. So they should arrive soon, if not having arrived already. Pursuant to JRS 14, as explained on ballot for trustees of the University of Vermont, you may vote for up to 3 candidates. Are there any questions? Seeing none, the chair now declares pursuant to JS 14, this joint assembly shall stand in recess until Thursday, February 25th at 2 p.m.